Hello. Today I'm bringing you this ZenTangle inspired artwork with watercolor. We will get started by going over the supplies. For paper, I have a 140-pound watercolor paper. It's a middle weight paper. Most watercolor paper starts at 90 pounds and goes up to 300 pound. The pound references how thick the paper is, and in this case it would tell us how much water the paper can take. This is a smaller piece of paper and we're not going to use too much water, so there could be a little bit of bowing or warping on your paper because we're not pre-stretching it, but that's okay for a small project like this ZIA. We're using cold press. That means it has a medium tooth. The tooth references the texture of the paper. I am using, in this case, Strathmore's Ready Cut sheets. This is a 5x7 sheet. I am cutting it with my paper cutter to be the 4x6 size. The original project, I actually used the Strathmore watercolor postcards. They're in 4x6, and this is very convenient. They come in a little pad, and again, 140 pound. I like it. I think it's really sweet that you could actually put a stamp and mail it to someone if you wanted to. And 4x6, 5x7, whatever you choose, it is a standard size for artwork, so the frames are out there and ready for you to do. You could actually do several mini artworks and put them in one, perhaps a photo frame that's meant for 3 artworks, 3 photos, 3 4x6 slots or 3 5x7 slots, whatever you'd like. For the rest of our supplies, I have an HB pencil. That's the middle of the road basic drawing pencil. It's got a medium lead as far as hardness, and it's not too dark. We just needed to do with the basis, beginning of our flower, and then after that we will trace in pen. And for this case, I'm using a Faber-Castell small nib, the S on the end there. You should be able to see the nib fairly good there. I needed a firm nib that was going to be able to handle the fact that we've got this cold press medium tooth on our paper. ZenTangle has traditionally used Sakura Micron, and I do love them. I especially love the plastic nib ones, but because of the texture of the paper, I was getting a little bit of skip, and I was worried about damaging my nib in the end. Perhaps a different type of paper, a mixed media paper, or if you're using a hot press has a very smooth surface, that might work. But for this project, I'm using cold press paper and the Faber-Castell, but you can use whatever pen you have on hand. You know, I also like just a basic Uniball for just a writing pen. They're waterproof, of course, we need that, and great strength as far as using it on watercolor paper. I have an eraser. After we do our initial drawing, after we outline it, I'll erase what's left and any mistakes that we made when we draw the flower. For watercolor brushes, I have my favorite brushes are the Neptunes. It's a quill style. This is a size 4, but if you have just a medium size brush that works for you, you want to go in a size that's appropriate for the artwork. You know, a 4x6 artwork. These are good size brushes. This is a Princeton Velvet Touch round size 8. So grab a couple of roundish brushes that you can use to do your painting part. Then as far as paint goes, today I'm using Prima Marketing's sets. It's a professional watercolor set. I sell watercolors. I sell art supplies, so I have a lot of watercolor sets just in my stash of art supplies here. Some of my favorites are these Prima Marketing, as well as I like Koi. They come in little sets with brush pens. Holbein, there's any variety. Basically, if you have a set and you like it, you'll want to, you know, that's what you use. In this instance, we're going to be using Prima Marketing's Decadent Pies. I've got a number 35 and number 36 here, 2 of the different blues. And then their Tropicals set. And we're going to use their greens. And with this case, we've got a 13 and an 18. I think I'll be using more of the 18. This top corner right here. Okay. All right then. The last thing is I have a little scrap sheet of paper because sometimes it's good just to test your colors, and we'll do that if you want to grab that. Little test piece of watercolor paper. Okay, let's get started. I'm starting in the center with this sort of a gumdrop shape. I'm gonna put that there. And right about here in my model, I've got it facing toward the left. There, little gumdrop. Okay, make it a little bit darker. I'm sure you guys, hopefully you guys can see that clear. Let me check. Yeah, you guys can see that. Okay, we'll start with our 3 inner leaves. So we've got our gumdrop, and every leaf is got this a little nub, not a sharp point, but a little rounded point at the top-ish. And you can or cannot do that if you want, you know, just a little roundness there. The leaves, there are some leaves that are curled under, so we'll do our first one right away here. And this is a round bottom because that little point is actually going to be about here because the leaf has curled up. Okay. I love doing that, so. And then we're going to have another leaf that's coming right here. And I'm going to show you underlapping, and we want to, for this one I'm just drawing it right over top so you can see the concept of it being under it. And it's another rounded leaf because it's also got a little cup, and I'm going to put this point more over here and soften that out a little bit. And you know, all of these lines are going to be erased anyway. So then I'll take my eraser and I'm putting this one on the top. So that means that all of this gets erased. And you can do that every time. Sort of, you know. Actually, I want to tweak that a little bit. I want it to be a little, I feel like it's a little too round. So let's give it a little more perspective. There we go. Just a little too bubbly. Okay, there we go. A little rounder. All right. So, yeah, like I said, you know, erase if you make a line over it. Please don't obsess because we certainly want this to be a fun, you're having fun here. You're not worried about too much of the perfect this and that. But if you need to tweak it, you tweak it. And, oh, so overlapping we were talking about, I did draw it over it and then erase part of the leaf so you can kind of get the idea. But you can also imagine instead of actually drawing, and I'll show you what I mean on this one. This next leaf, we're doing one of the under leaves now. So it's going to come from generally this area, but I'm not going to actually draw it here. I'm just going to go do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Sound effects help. Just pretend that I'm touching it, and then it'll land about here. I feel like that lines up good, and then just draw my little point, nub, come back around, and then be like, oh, yeah, I would imagine it would keep going, and that is how I would like it to look. And I want to make this one a little bit of a, let's see, actually, if it was coming from like about here, it would go, yeah, that works. And then I want to give this a slight curl side, so we are going to shade this little area there. So we'll add a little lip, like a rounding of the leaf coming about. Then we'll do one here. This one is a leaf that's underneath, and it too, this is just a tiny little area you won't see much of. Right there. That, I made that fold up. That's what that represents. And you can see that on the model here. And of course it's going to be a little different. You know, I'm not a copy machine, but, and it's fun to see the little differences. So you see here, this is the little lip that I'm talking about, the little fold over the leaf. All these, right here's this bottom one. This one's a little smaller here, but it's okay. Then we've got a leaf down here to add. So let's do that. That could be right here, a little pointish. How about that? Oh, I like that. Okay, and now we've got a leaf. We've done 1, 2, 3. We've got 3 more to do. So we'll just come around. Again, finding a point where you're sort of coming from. We'll say that's right-ish here. And knowing that I've got to do, this is our bottom. There'll be 2 more up here. That helps, actually, if you think about it. So let me go ahead and lower that a tad, because I've got to get 3 leaves here. So I'll go ahead and have 1 coming here, little point, coming all the way around. Good, I like that. Is that too low? Let's see. Oh, maybe a little bit. Gotta go back and check, like, where is it landing? Is it coming out here logically? It's coming, yeah, it's curling in about that point. See the difference? To know where, you know, you have to imagine it attaching to the center underneath everything. Okay, then we've got 2 more to do, and this one has got one of the little lip sides, so we know if it's coming from here. We're gonna go ahead and do that little side. Okay, and the little point, and we'll go ahead and have it land here. That makes sense. It's little, there we go. Little fold. Okay, you can still see this pretty good. You know, we're going to go over all that with a pen. And then, so where are we at? 1, 2. Remember, that's an under one. 3, 4, 5. 1 more. And logically, again, it's coming from here. So we'll want to do that. Give it a little point. Okay, and a happy little flower there. Yeah, okay, good. So that works. I'm happy with this. How are you guys looking? Good? Okay. Let's, is there anything else? No, we're good. We're going to go ahead and go outline it with our pen now. So I like to start right in the center with our gumdrop middle. We're just tracing over the same lines. Okay. And you can go in the same order that you did. Make you feel good. No mistakes from this point. Everything you do is going to be just fine. Because, you know, we learn happy little things, happy little accidents happen. No big deal. And we learn. If I gave up every time I had a mistake, whew, I wouldn't be an artist, that's for sure. 'Cause the mistakes are where the learning is. I know, I'm corny. That's what everybody says, but everybody says it because it's true. Got a little point to go over here. Oh my gosh, I totally love that. Come around here. Okay, so there's those 3 inner petals. Then our outside petals, just be careful not to go over a line, although we can make anything work. Okay, looking good, guys. Got 3 more. Turn it to make it easier to get to everything. Are you guys trying to figure out what flower it is? Sitting like this, it reminds me of a water lily, especially with the blue and green. All right, let's do our shading now. And I have to tell you, the texture and the shading in the center is just one of my favorite parts. So we're going with line work here. And remember, we want to, in the round is really going to help make it look round. So just adding lines, sort of like a bunch of parentheses, rainbows. You know, they don't have to be perfect. It's just a nice little texture. And we're going to have several layers of goodies. That'll be there. And then along the bottom, I actually began with little X's. But I don't want everything to be perfectly exact, so I definitely then went a little out and off and into here and there, and now I'm going to add some almost hair-like jet outs coming from here and there. And then, of course, our stippling effect I'm super excited about, so I'm just starting that along the edge, right there, okay. And then anywhere that there's a shadow, so let's add a few more there for kicks. All right, anywhere there's a shadow, and if you look, obviously we've got the folds of the leaves, but also these little areas where it would be a little bit darker, like in the nooks, the creases. I call this where the sun don't shine. So we'll add little bits there. Also, if you notice on the fold over leaves part, there's always a little area where there's a highlight, where there's less of the stippling. And because of this stippling technique, it's also having the nice nib on your pen is really important because you don't want to damage your pen. So let's start. Oh, actually, I forgot to erase. So making sure that your ink is dry. I'm sure it is. These things don't take too long, but depending on what pen you're using, do make sure. Then we'll just go through and erase our pencil. Go astray. Okay, there we go. All right, guys. So we're back in shading, beginning our stippling. And like I said, going into these little areas here, just tapping. And the closer, you do want to make sure that you're tapping and dotting versus too much movement with the pen to make tiny dashes. You know, that's not what I'm doing. That is, you know, you can always create your own methods. I love when you guys make it your own, but I am doing just little dots. And I would Google, if you guys could Google like stippling, as far as drawing goes and it being a method to shade your artwork with pencil, pen, I mean, it's just stunning what some people are have created with little dots as the shading. It's really beautiful. And it takes a lot of time, but I think it can be quite meditative, and you know that is something I do look for. I think the process of art and the calmingness that comes from it is valuable, and the peace that can wash over you when you find something that relaxes you. And stippling certainly does that, but it's not for everybody. Sometimes the look or the actual activity of stippling isn't for everyone. All right, I'm going to start the fold over lips of each of the flowers, and that's just I'm going to do a hole in here. It's also a good time to fix. A little bit of pen mark went over into that flower, so I can go ahead and almost dot it away. So just rotate the card as you need to. And I am dotting rather a bit on the line that I drew too. Not going over, I'm trying to be neat, but it helps almost give a tonal effect with the shading versus that it's a line work, and that's nice. I'm going to go up into here. definitely got a lovely textural appearance to it from a stylistic standpoint, stippling in your drawing. And it is a lesson in value, so you know, the lightness and darkness of a color, and when you add value to shapes, that's how you create form, the three-dimensional quality. And the more dots you put together, the darker the value, and that all. It's just a different way to do it. It's really pretty. But as I said, if you want to do it a different way, the first model I did, I actually did lines to be the shading. So, and we're doing all of this because our flower is white. If we were painting the flower, then we would use different values of our color. So if we were painting, say, a pink flower, we would do different shades of darker and lighter pink. Okay, so then we'll just move on to another one, and now I'm just going to go through. So now I'm just focusing on little areas that could have a shadow. Obviously, I'm not worried about a light source. We're not getting that in depth. We're just doing, hey, a leaf could be blocking another leaf kind of thing, or add a little interest. So these two are obviously blocking this one, and it's folded over, so getting a little light in there would be challenging. So I'm just going to add a few dots in this crevice. And you know, making interesting shapes at this point is kind of a nice thing, cute. Right here, we'll do one. Could do like a little triangle shape or something. Just add interest. See, that's cute. Then let's see. There's not a lot of space right there. Here we go. I'm trying to make it so you guys can see good. All right. And obviously part of the textural fun and the interest comes that you can see white still. If you dot enough in an area, it will totally black out, and that might not have the same look. So think about that. How much, you know, play with your dot ratios. You know, how much are you really needing to do? I got a little bit there already, a little bit there, a little bit coming down here. Up, you know, up into here. I go ahead and do a tiny bit here. Just spread out. Yeah, I like that actually. Okay, a little bit right here. Okay, all right. So I think we're good. Really tiny right here. I think we're good. I'm liking that. So now we add the lines, just because flowers have lines, you know. Just a couple. Thinking about the line work from adding to the directionality of the flower. So, you know, if it's then it would continue this way. All right, I like this. How are you guys feeling? Good? All right, so from this point, we will jump right into our tangles. And we're starting with onomado. So onomado is made of orbs, and we've got quite a few orbs in this. I like using orbs. They're very organic in nature. And this is going to be our ground line cover. So like it's resting on an onomado situation. So I'm going to turn it just a little bit, and starting from the edge of the paper, we're just drawing a line there and imagining it coming across here. And you know, it won't be exactly the same as my other one. I'm just two different pieces of art. This is going to parallel. And how thick this, we are going to be fitting little orbs inside of this band. Okay, and then, you know, maybe right down here, we'll do our second. And big orbs will fit inside of this area. And we'll give another little band. For another set, just running parallel. Okay. And that's it. We'll get started on our orb creation. So we're filling the bands with circles, and then we're filling the big area with circles. So I will just starting here. I want to. You can see these are just tiny circles inside. I don't know how well you can see that. And the tangles are listed on the supply sheet if you want to look them up more closely. Onomato is one of the original Zentangles created by Maria and Rick. I think all of them are today. Yeah, Mist and Zinger and Poke Root. All the original, some of the original tangles when they created them, and all really natural looking. But a lot of the tangles are just patterns found in nature that, you know, you're walking along the beach and you see a seashell or the texture on a brick wall or a flower, and kind of deconstructing that pattern in a step-by-step way is really what tangles are all about. So then I'll add the larger orbs into the area here. And then from here, as you can see on the model, we're just coloring the negative spaces, all the little things around the inner orbs, okay? And this gives a nice pop of drama, some darkness to complement that the flowers got some darkness from the stippling. Okay, that's Onomato. Next, we're going to move in and do Poke Root. One of my favorites. Obviously, it's got a great organic look, mushroom berry type thing. So we'll begin by just adding a few here, like it's growing with the flowers. So a little nib, little bean, then a stem, going both sides, and around. So it's like an upside down cherry, see? Kind of. Okay. And we'll just do several and different sizes and coming underlapping. So this one, for instance, could be lower stem, and then you could do it, and then it stops, goes around, comes here. Okay, so that one's behind that one, and that's a nice effect. And having them nested like this is really good. I'm going to show you Zinger next. Well, there's a happy little accident. I just told you about underlapping and overlapping, and then I just did it. Well, I've got an idea. Let's just add some stippling right here. Do 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 do. Isn't that neat how the brain just like takes you over? Da-da-da. Oh, I like. Now we've got some stippling on our little shadow. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. And it goes along with the flower nicely. So, okay, gotta go with the flow, right? Gotta go with what happens. And, all right. Yeah, that works. Okay. Then what I need to do is at the same time we're doing the poke root, we have to do the zingers so they look like they're kind of growing together. So we'll do one here, and it is also a little bean circle shape, and then, but you know, we can kind of make this stalk a little wiggly. Still going with it, and then this is just wearing little hats that get smaller and smaller. And tiny and tiny and tiny, and then I like a couple of dots, maybe 3 dots there. And those can be wiggled throughout, wiggled along with our poke roots. So, and again, let me successfully show you this time how to underlap. And even if our brain just takes over and does it at once, we can work with it. Okay, there's our little zingers. Let's put some more. Let's do another poke. I don't know, I'm gonna do another zinger right here. Maybe one wiggling right. Oh, we'll do a tiny one here. Okay, and back to the poke root. Okay, I think I'm gonna do one here going this way. We'll do the similar over here. All right, we've got our poke roots and our zingers, and now I'm just doing a dash of stippling along the bottom here and there. We're gonna do it as ground cover a little bit, adding some texture, maybe even a little shadow you could call it. And since I did that here, I'm going to do it just a tad on the bottom of some of my little bulbs of poke root, just to show, oh, there's a little shadow under there, and I kind of like the way it happens, the way it adds to it. So giving us another opportunity to practice our stippling as a shadow. Looks really cool. So, happy accidents, as always, we love them. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add onto that one. I'll do a little bit here too. Can you see that, guys? Sometimes I worry that I wiggle. Okay, let's see. I'll put a little bit here. Okay, and then we need a little bit down here on the bottom. I get quite a few. It's very dark in this nestle. Okay. Anything else? We've got, really like the way it's looking. So now we'll do our mist and then our little orbs floating in our sort of like water here. I'll get started on the mist. It's just a wiggle and then some dots. I've got 6 dots, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on, I think on most of the model, but it's not, you could do as many or as few as you wanted. I do recommend doing different heights. You definitely want to do different heights just so it looks a little more, you know, not so perfect. This is mist. Obviously it has a rain look to it, and especially with our flower and then the watery look down at the bottom, it just adds to the nature, to the wet, the water, you know, since we're using blue and green, it just all fits. Now our final tangle at the bottom here, we'll start with our orbs. So just several circles floating. And then the lines come around each one. So in the beginning, we're just moving along. And in the model, the leaf was over the onomato, this leaf. See, there's a whole section. Whereas in this one, the leaves dip into half, but they didn't. And that's just the uniqueness of art and of Zentangle, so it's not a big deal. And you can kind of squeeze around your orbs, but at some point you're going to have to draw around your orbs, and that's where you get a nice texture. So moving a nice pattern, we'll scoop around, and I'm just going to go ahead and move along around these. The next few. All right, for now we are going to be adding the little stippling to the right bottom-ish of each. And you can see again just a little added texture and shadow on all of those, okay? Same thing we've been doing. Just a little dots to the right side with a little moon shape. I think we're ready for paint. Woohoo! All right, for paints, we are, as I said, going to do with the blue. It's a darker blue from almost a navy or a Prussian blue from one of my sets, my Decadent Pies set. That's this one here. And then a green from my tropical set. These are, again, Prima Marketing watercolors, but whatever you have. I will grab a little bit of water. I've got my water here. And I want to show you the two colors. This. Oops. I'll show you the water. So there's one of them. And, you know, the more water you use, the darker, the lighter your value of your paint will be. And then we've got the green, and we'll actually be blending those together in the bottom of it. It's always good to have a little piece of paper ready to do a test so you understand what you're doing. I know I'm going to be using my number 4 quill for the larger areas, and then my smaller, the round. It's funny, it's got an 8 and this is a 4, but you know, different brands, different style of brushes. But I'm going to use this for the tiny, areas have to get into deeper. We're gonna start from the bottom, the top, and work down. That way, like, my hand won't be into things. So let's begin with our background. So I'm just gonna make a little puddle of paint ready for me. I may even end up mixing 2 blues. So, you know, I don't, if you want to do that, you are welcome to. You're welcome to do any colors you want, really. We are going to do wet on wet, so it's just fun that way. And we're painting over our zingers and our poke roots. So to begin with, I'm just putting some water down. I need a good amount of water, but at the same time, I'm not wanting my paper to bow. So don't, it's not like a major flood. And we do want the water to go only, we want to avoid the flower. That's an onomato. I didn't paint onomato or the flower, so don't want to paint in that area. And we need it to be wet enough so we can get our work done, but we also don't the paper to bow that much, which it's already doing, and that's because it's 140-pound paper and it wasn't pre-stretched, and that's a whole nother thing, that stretching, soaking the paper prior. I'm not much of a paper stretcher, so, but, and for these little projects, it's really not such a big deal. So I think we're totally painted, and so we're gonna grab some blue and work it in, and this right here is why we like watercolor, why we like wet on wet, just the funness of it. And I did just grab a different blue, because, I don't know, I'm an artist and I just decided let's be wild and crazy, right? So just added a little bit of water in here. You know, we could even add it, make it a little bit darker at the bottom. Darker blue at the bottom even, lighter blue at the top if you wanted. You want to go ahead and imagine the really like what's going on there. I want to get it up close to there. And you know, you can switch to your smaller brush when it's getting a little detailed. That's probably even a good idea. Okay. And I have my paper towel on the side. You'll see me pull off and dab a little bit. I keep doing that just to make sure that I don't over too much water on there. Like, you know, there's a little bit extra there I could pull off. And also leaving a little bit of white. I mean, that's a real traditional watercolor thing to do. So, you know, I may leave those little areas there, and that's just, don't have to color the whole thing in. It's not like, I know, a coloring book. We could kind of just leave it kind of just like that with these little white areas. I love the contrast that that does. So I'm gonna kind of let that go. You can also pick up your card and move it around so that your paint flows a bit and that creates movement. So I'm gonna let that go there. I like the 2 blues. Nice adding that in. Now we're gonna use the green and these 2 blues down here in our groundwater bottom area here. So I'll start, let's just jump right in with some of the green. Oh, actually we're gonna jump in with clear water. A little bit. Paint just the bottom area. And then we'll add some of our green. And you know, and like I said, you could just pick it up, move it around. Oh, look at that go. The flow. Okay, and then if you want to add in some of your blue, you could do that, like maybe down here. Ooh, that's dark. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick up some of it. Oh, pick up some blue. I mean, you can really pick up any blue. Pick up any blue. Do a little blue. Totally different blue. And really, you're done whenever you decide you're done. Leave some of the white, or go ahead and switch brushes and grab some of the blue and go in and hit the edges a little bit if you want. You know. when you're watercoloring, theoretically you do need to move rather quickly. It tends to dry quickly. You know, that's why the amount of water that you use is going to be really a big deal. You can see we got a little bowing. It's not a big deal. It just makes things a little more challenging because then things roll like it's on a hill. These are wonderful little, if you're really into watercoloring, this is a great way to practice and understand and learn about the paint. The only thing I want to do, I do think I want to add a little bit of darkness down here. And it's still wet, just because of the timing. Yours may not be. You may need to introduce, if you're perfectly dry, you might be painting paint on dry paint, or you maybe need to add a little more water if you want to do that wet on wet flowy thing. I just wanted to have a little bit of darkerness here. Darkerness. Yeah, a little bit of darkerness. I'm going to go ahead and do a little darkness here. Ooh, yeah, I like that a lot. I think adding the big, nice wash of dark at the bottom is kind of cool. And I love what's going on up here. Don't you? That's just so nice. I'm wondering, do you guys want to add, we could do a little more darker green, I think, and then probably just about done. Let me see. We have a little more green here and there. Just move it around. Okay, I think we're good. I can't wait to see yours. Thank you so much for joining me in the class today. I'd love to see your artwork. Post, share it with me. Use hashtag RedArtLove. See you later.